I'm sure you know Donald Trump put out a video message on Friday. He said, quote, "I was wrong and I apologize." But then he called this a distraction and he criticized Bill and Hillary Clinton. Take a listen.
I've said some foolish things, but there's a big difference between the words and actions of other people. Bill Clinton has actually abused women, and Hillary has bullied, attacked, shamed, and intimidated his victims.
I'm sure that Hillary Clinton is preparing for that charge to be leveled Sunday evening. What's your response?
Well, you know, there was some chance this was going to come up at my debate earlier this week because Donald Trump, after he lost the first debate, went to the spin room and said, okay, now the Clintons' marriage is fair game. And, you know, I can't say how Donald Trump should run his campaign, but I can say this. The Clinton campaign is not about this. It's not about the marriages of folks at the top of the ticket. It's about issues that voters care about. And I know that those voters at the town hall forum tomorrow night are going to have a lot of questions. My gut is that most of the questions are going to be about really basic issues like how to grow the economy and how to keep America safe in the world. And, you know, if Donald wants to talk about something other than what voters want to talk about, that's his choice. But I suspect that Hillary Clinton is going to talk about the things that voters really care about.
Well, you also said just a few minutes ago that you think the voters are going to have questions about what Donald Trump says on this tape. So it's not as though the personal conduct of Donald Trump, you think, is something that voters are not interested in. Is it not possible that some of them might also have questions about Bill Clinton's behavior and Hillary Clinton's response to Bill Clinton's behavior?
I would find it unlikely, but again, it's going to be those voters that ask about it. Remember, Jake, this is actually part of a broader pattern because as I was getting into in my debate Tuesday, Donald Trump has run a campaign where he's perpetrated a bigoted lie that President Obama wasn't a United States citizen. He's gone after immigrants. He's gone after Muslims. He's attacked military families and John McCain, a POW. He said many other deplorable things about women. There is a broad pattern of disrespect, both in word, action, and policy, toward all kinds of people. And that is, I think, why this issue on Friday just so galvanized people. Because it's not something you can explain away as an aberration or here's something that, well, this was me 10 years ago, it's not who I am now. There's plenty of evidence that this is exactly who Donald Trump is today. And by this, I mean divisive and cavalier in his treatment of others. And with respect to women in particular, what this shows, I think at its base, is that he cannot consider women as his equals. I think there's kind of a piece of the jigsaw puzzle missing in Donald Trump where he does not look at women and consider them as equal to himself.